Okay, so we're back and we're going to figure out what moving these sliders does for A. Okay, I like blue. So we changed purple to A. When we were moving that slider for A, what was happening to the graph? What was happening to the parabola? Okay, so it changed how wide or narrow it was. Okay, and did anybody happen to pay attention when it got narrower? What were the numbers, larger or smaller, or what was happening? Wider for what? Okay, right. So the more the narrow it got, we're talking about larger numbers or larger negative numbers. Okay? So think of it this way. You have your parabola. Y equals x squared is your parent graph here. And if you have a value of A equals 1, it's just kind of right here. If I get A equals 2, it's almost like you're reaching up. And when you reach up higher to a larger number, your hands kind of just automatically, you're reaching up high, it's going narrow. Think of it that way. Or if you're reaching down and you're reaching down to a lower number, your hands kind of tend to get, I think, more narrow. I don't know if that helps you remember it or not. But the larger the number, the larger the negative number, the more narrow that is going to be. That's for your A value. Okay? When they are wide, what kind of numbers are we looking at when it is wide? What is it? Smaller, or even to be more specific, we're usually talking about fractions, right? Either like a third or a half or negative 3/4, okay? If they're positive, they're up. Negative, they're down, but they're going to be wider, all right? So that's for the A value. What about for the H value? How does it change when you move that slider for H back and forth? Moves it left to right. Okay, moves left and right. And what we said, I don't know if you guys remember this, H stands for horizontal. So it is moving horizontally, left and right. Okay. And what specifically is moving left to right? The vertex. So yes, the parabola, the graph follows it, but you're basically talking about the vertex. But yes, when the vertex moves, the whole graph moves with it, right? Okay. So the H value moves horizontally left and right. We're talking about the vertex with the rest of it following. All right, and how about the K? What happens when you were using that K value in that slider? How did it move? Okay, moves up and down. And do you remember what we said for K? When you think of the K value, think of a kangaroo jumping up and down. Up and down. And again, what is moving up and down? It is the vertex. Yes, the graph follows, but it is led by the vertex. Okay? Any questions about those three? Okay. All right, let's go and let's talk about the second, or the two questions below that. It says, which of these parameters that we just talked about, A, H, and K, which of those parameters affects the range? Range. You're like, range? We haven't heard that word for a while. Does anybody recall what the range is? We talked about the domain and the range. Anyone? Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play. Range?
They do like the lowest and highest number?
Yeah, kind of. Of what? Because domain is low and high numbers of something too, but range are your Y values. The lows, how high did you go for the Y values? How low did you go for the Y values? So as we think about this, which of those parameters, A, H, or K, is going to affect the range of my parabola? If we're talking Y values. Yeah, the K. The K values are going to be most affected because the K tells you whether you're going up or down. Okay? So if you change the K, you're going to be changing your range, your Y values. And we're going to see that in just a bit. All right. And the last question on that page. The equation y equals 1 times quantity x minus 0 quantity squared plus 0 is considered the parent function. Parent function, that's the one where all parabolas start from. For a vertical parabola, and that's all we've been talking about so far. Find 5 points on the graph and list them on your page. So if I were to simplify this, okay, if I were to simplify this, this works out to be, well, first of all, this is vertex form. What is my vertex here? What is my vertex? 0, 0, right? Here's my H, here's my K, here's my H, here's my K. So the graph, I mean, you're probably used to seeing it, is pretty much like this. That is the parent graph. That's where all parabolas start with. Now, if I go to Desmos, let's see if I can bring that up here. I don't want the graphing calculator. If I go to Desmos and I move this, so K is 0 and H is 0. Just move. I don't want to see that. Oh my gosh. And A is 1. Oh, very touchy. Well, we watched Miss Dee Dee do this for an hour, going back and forth. Ooh, here we go. 1, 1. Oh! Okay, there's the parent function, y equals x squared, okay? Vertex is at 0, 0. 0, 0. All right, so it says give 5 points. So you can hit anywhere on here, and you can see 0, 0 is 1 point. I was hoping it was going to let me do, what is that? Gosh darn it. I was hoping it was going to let me put any of these on. I must have hit something wrong. But as you look at it, 1, 1 is also a point, right? -1, 1 is a point. 2, 4 is a point. And you're supposed to be listing 5 of these. And -2, 4 is another point. Okay, so there's 5 points. And if you hit anywhere on here and if your Desmos is still working, you can pick any other points on that graph. All right? Okay, turn the next page. Let me bring this back up. Back and forth. Here we go. It says grab a piece of paper. So you've got your graph paper. Fold it into quarters. And I need you to sketch. No plugging in the equations. Don't put them in on Desmos. That's cheating. Desmos knows how to do it. We want to see if you can do it. Sketch the equations. Okay? Sketch the equations. So this first one, y equals x minus 2 quantity squared plus 4. Write that equation above your graph and then try to sketch it. And what form are all of these in? Vertex form. So you should be able to find the vertex. If you remember, this is y equals a times x minus h quantity squared plus k, where hk is your vertex. Okay? So what's the vertex of my first one, just to help you get started? 2, 4. There you go. So that's where you're going to put your point, 2, 4. And then look at where A is. A happens right before. What is my A value? It's a positive 1. So it's going to open upward or downward? Upward. And it's only 1, so it's going to be the same width as the parent graph. Okay? Same width as the parent graph. So we're not talking about exact sketches, but just get some basic ones. Do that for the next 3, 1 on each quarter of your graph paper. Okay? And once you have those graphed, then answer question D on page 100. Determine the range of each function. So I'm going to give you about 7 minutes to work on that. Okay, about 7 minutes. Just trying to sketch the graph, a general sketch. Is it opening upward? Is it opening downward? Don't use Desmos. Just try to sketch it. And you can go ahead and paste. What I did is I paste 1/4 of this down, and then when it folds up, it's not going to like stick out of your book and be all messy. And you can open it up and look at it still. Okay, so I think I left glue sticks kind of close to you guys. So just sketching.